Mr. President, council members, and participants, we are now live.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good morning to all. We're going to get started now. This is the recessed public meeting of the Committee of the Whole regarding bills number 210-283, 210-284, 210-285, 210-322, 210-323, 210-324, and resolution number 210-336. Mr. McDermott, please call the roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance, please indicate that you're present to ensure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. McDermott, please call the roll.
Councilmember Bass.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues, and viewing public.
Morning.
Councilmember Brooks.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues in Philadelphia. I'm present.
Morning.
Councilmember Dom. Councilmember Gautier.
Good morning, present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Gibb.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Heenan.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Jones. Councilmember O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilmember O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues, and to the viewing public.
Good morning.
Councilmember Quinones Sanchez.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilmember Squilla.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues, present.
Good morning.
And Councilmember Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We clearly have established a quorum, and Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker, as we will not consider the action to be taken today on the bills and resolutions before the committee at this time. Councilwoman Parker, can you please give us a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the public meeting on bill numbers 210-283, 210-284, 210-285, 210-322, 210-323, 210-324, and resolution number 210-336 stand in recess until 1 p.m. this afternoon.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the public meeting of the Committee of the Whole on bills and resolutions just read by Councilmember Parker be recessed until 1 p.m. this afternoon. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. This committee will stand in recess until 1 p.m. this afternoon, at which time we will reconvene on Microsoft Teams. Thank you all very much. Ask the members to please go to your link for the stated meeting right now. Thank you.
Council members and President, we are live.
Thank you very much. We're going to get started. This is the recessed public meeting of the Committee of the Whole, regarding bills number 210, 283, 210, 284, 210, 285, 210, 322, 210, 323, 210, 324, and resolution number 210, 336. Mr. McDermott, will you please call the roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance just indicate that you're present to ensure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. McDermott, please call the roll.
Councilmember Bass.
I am present.
Councilmember Brooks.
I am here.
Councilmember Dom.
Good evening, everyone. Present. Thanks.
Councilmember Gautier.
Present.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Present.
Councilmember Green.
Present.
Councilmember Gim.
Present.
Councilmember Heenan.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Jones.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember O. Councilmember Parker.
Present.
Councilmember Quinones Sanchez.
Buenas noches, present.
Councilmember Squilla. Councilmember Thomas.
I'm present. Hope you heard me.
I'm having a hard time hearing. This is Mark Squill. I'm not sure if you called me.
Yes.
I'm here. I might go out and come back in. I'm having a hard time hearing.
Okay, Councilman. All right.
Oh, and Councilman O is present. I'm sorry.
Okay. And Councilmember Johnson, because this is a budget bill, we want to give members every opportunity. Okay. Okay. All right. So I want to miss anybody. Okay. Councilmember will be on 1 second.
Councilman Johnson is here.
All right. Thank you, Councilman.
You're welcome.
Okay, Councilman, we just took the roll, so we're getting ready to move forward. Real quick, we had 3 actions to be taken in the committee today. 210, 284. This is Councilman Dom's net profits bill. He will be offering an amendment. 210, 322. That will be the budget bill, i.e. operating bill. And bill number 210, 324, as amended, we will be calling for the vote out of committee, and that's the Philly-only wage tax bill. Okay, so we're ready to get started, folks. We can proceed. So, Chair, at this time, we'll be recognizing Councilman Dom for a motion on the amendment to bill number 210-284.
Thank you, Council President. Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank everyone. I know it's late. I want to thank you, Council President and colleagues, for the opportunity to speak this evening. I just want you to share with you that this past year, we've really worked to try to build a case for what we've been doing in Philadelphia. Really hasn't been working great for a lot of Philadelphians. It hasn't produced family-sustaining jobs for all our residents, nor has it invited enough people and businesses here to sustain jobs into the future. We started off the budget season with a big and bold approach on the net income taxes to try and focus on how we change our trajectory. And given where this body is today, we circulated an amendment, thanks to Councilmember Derek Green with his guidance and advice, that brings this bold plan down to a 1-year reduction of net income taxes, but works to start a conversation about how we put Philadelphia on a new path. A few weekends ago, some of us read a report that noted in 1970, about 51 years ago, there were 940,000 jobs in Philadelphia, and today, 5 decades later, we have about 700,000 jobs, 25% less jobs, less opportunities for our people. It also means that we've been managing economic decline for the last 50 years. We have an opportunity today. This is a moment in time where we can write a new story going forward. We've never received $1.4 billion from the federal government, and this is a time where we're managing the economic growth for future decades. And we know what we have to do because it's been studied and discussed repeatedly for decades. We know our tax structure has punished our people and businesses far too long. And instead of relying on Band-Aids that we've relied on in the past, this is the time to tackle what's holding us back. The current tax structure is failing our city and our residents and our businesses. And the number one problem, to be very clear, is the 6.2% net income tax. When added to the state income tax, it creates a 16.2% tax on business income for businesses located in Philadelphia. Only New York City is higher at 17.2. We're at 16.2. All other major U.S. cities and across the country are much lower than us. The third highest is California, which is San Francisco, L.A., San Diego. They're at 8.8. We are at 16.2. Washington, D.C. is 8.25. We're at 16.2. And Chicago is at 7, and we're at 16.2. This is the reason why we're not producing these good family-sustaining jobs. We're the only city in the country in the last 10 years where the greatest number of jobs created were at 35,000 or less. In fact, 60% of the jobs created in the last 10 years were for jobs paying less than $35,000, while the national average was 29% of the jobs created were less than $35,000. In addition to conducting a study of our tax structure, we've had several discussions with businesses of all sizes in every neighborhood. And through these conversations, it became clear that our net income tax is essentially a tax that penalizes local businesses. And we need to stop punishing local small businesses with a tax their competitors in the city don't have to pay. So take a look at what's happening in the suburbs. And we've talked about this. Companies are locating and expanding outside our city. They're creating family-sustaining jobs that pay over $35,000 to $100,000 and more. King of Prussia has had $4 billion of investment and another $1 billion in the next 12 months. It's growing its residents and jobs, and many of those should have been in Philadelphia. But what King of Prussia doesn't have is a 6.2% local net income tax, and they don't have a 3.87 wage tax. This legislation is about creating good-paying jobs for Philadelphians, period. And like I had mentioned before, we can't keep doing what we're doing and expect those who have choices and who will make them, they'll probably not make that choice for Philadelphia. And for anyone who believes this is trickle-down economics, I ask you to take a drive out to the suburbs and just look at what's being built. Look at the corporate campuses that exist. Look at the surrounding row homes, townhouses, and apartment complexes going up. What they're doing is duplicating what we have here, but yet they're creating good-paying jobs while doing it because they don't have the tax structure. If we don't listen to and understand how businesses are making decisions, we will fail to grow the middle class here in Philadelphia. 1 mile beyond our border, it's a thriving economic engine. In fact, when you look at the jobs in Philadelphia, we are 25% below the suburbs. We're the only city on the East Coast that is that far below our suburbs in job growth. So I ask you all today to vote for jobs in Philadelphia. This is very important to me. And growing jobs here helps to grow our population and helps us fund our programs for the long term. Right now, we have the lowest median household income regionally, lower than Camden County by 20,000. We have the greatest number of low-wage earning jobs of all major cities. We have the lowest formation of black and brown businesses on the East Coast, and we have the lowest formation of total businesses. We have 10 large employers here. Only 2 pay business taxes, American Airlines and Comcast. The other 8 are educational universities and hospitals. So I encourage my colleagues to support this amendment and take action to create better paying jobs in our city. This is a moment in time. I'm not sure we'll see this again in my lifetime, but it's an opportunity for us to try to fix what's caused our employment decline in the last 50 years. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about Councilmember Dom's amendment to the business income receipt tax. In the mayor's proposal, the mayor initially proposed a $157 million cut for the net income portion of the business income receipt tax. The amendment that has been proposed as part of Councilmember Dom's bill is a reduction of that of $100 million, $101 million on the net income portion of the business income receipt tax. And the reason I support this legislation, because as a former small business owner, and I take a lot of direction from a lot of small business owners, especially in communities of color. In particular, I had a chance to have a very long dialogue with members of the African American Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Commerce, and the Asian American Chamber of Commerce to get their perspective on tax policy. And in my conversation with them, they did a survey of their members. Over 80% of their members supported a reduction of the business income and receipt tax. In addition, in talking with the leadership of those organizations, they commended City Council. And I also can speak to my experience as board member of National League of Cities, president of Democratic municipal officials, as well as the president of Pennsylvania Municipal League. This body probably took the first action to address COVID-19 compared to any other body at the local, state, or federal level to put more dollars into a relief fund for small businesses through the Small Business Loan and Grant Relief Fund that we did in the very beginning of this pandemic when we did the $85 million transfer ordinance. And when we did that, there was a number of organizations that wanted to participate and receive dollars through that grant process, but they just were not able to participate, even though we did all that we could to get information out to them. So when I asked those organizations specifically, what would be a better type of relief for businesses of color, African American businesses, Hispanic businesses, Asian American businesses, they said a grant fund was a good idea, but a better proposal was an across-the-board cut of their taxes, and that's why they supported a reduction of the business income and receipt taxes. One of my concerns as we go through this budget process is how do we allocate resources for a lot of the issues and concerns that we've talked about, specifically last year as we saw the challenges regarding the civil unrest coming out of the tragic killing of George Floyd, and then here in the city of Philadelphia, Walter Wallace Jr. And I think the Amendments we're making to the operating budget to address those issues are very important. That's why I signed on to the letter from Councilmember Johnson and following his leadership of how we provide additional dollars for anti-violence initiatives. But this is not an either or type of conversation. We need to provide resources to address those issues. I think this body has stepped up in that regard from the numerous hearings we've had regarding gun violence and the additional commitment we're making through this budget process and using the dollars from the American Rescue Plan to address anti-violence issues. But at the same point, we also have to look at the economic conditions that have caused these concerns. And so, we've had hearings in this body bringing together both the anti-violence and economic issues of our city. And we're only going to be able to grow our city by growing wealth in the city for those communities. This year, and not that long ago, a number of people talked about the issues, and for some, that was news to them about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what happened in Black Wall Street or the Greenwood section of Oklahoma. But what people don't realize, the reason why there was a Tulsa, Oklahoma, was a significant amount of new wealth that came into Oklahoma because of the finding of oil. So you had those from a majority community who found about oil and gas and were able to hire in the Black community of Greenwood, who were able to now have a better quality of life. So similar to companies like Comcast and others that were able to hire people in that area of Greenwood, those communities were able to prosper because of the growth of economic development in that area. Unfortunately, they were not able to spend in majority communities and only could spend in Black Wall Street, and they're also able to grow businesses of color, specifically African-American businesses in that community. So this is not an either-or perspective. We've got to find ways how we grow Black and brown businesses, especially in the city of Philadelphia, but also businesses as a whole. And I think from the work that this body has been doing through this budget, we're trying to do that. We're trying to address anti-violence issues. We're trying to address a number of quality of life issues in our council. But at the same point, sending the message that we're trying to have growth in our city, in the community, as well as in our city core is very important. So that's why I support this initiative from my experience, not only as a lender working in North Philadelphia over the years, as well as being a small business owner myself, but also talking to those organizations that represent African American, Hispanic, as well as Asian communities on what they would like to see. And from their perspective, grant dollars are a good perspective, but a better way for them to grow their businesses and be able to hire in our neighborhoods and our commercial corridors is by a reduction of the business income receipt tax. And I think with the dollars we're receiving from the American Rescue Plan, we can do those initiatives to help those businesses, as well as provide the resources that we need to address the anti-violence issues we're trying to address in this budget, as well as all the other quality of life and budget restoration we're making through this budget process. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Nona Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. And I want to thank Council Member Dom and Green for all their advocacy around this. When I started this journey 13 years ago around revising the tax structure of businesses in the city of Philadelphia, I was met with a lot of cynicism about big business versus small business versus medium business. And what we showed back 10 years ago was that there is a fairer way of taxing the city of Philadelphia, a way that we can be intentional and focused about what we want to help. What did we accomplish then? In a fact-based analysis, we knew that the net profits tax, as stipulated by both Councilmember Green and Dom, is the most cost burden aspect of the small businesses. And that's why we ultimately, at the end, in the quest to eliminate the net profits tax, we ended up with a $100,000 exemption. At that point, we thought we would help, about 50,000 businesses. As our finance director testified the other day, we actually are helping 75,000 businesses. So what we thought was the case proved to be effective. At that particular time, we also enhanced single sales factor, where we helped save over $60 million a year over the last decade to manufacturers. So manufacturers who are producing products in the city of Philadelphia can be globally competitive, not paying the net profits tax. We also provided a use and occupancy waiver where we got big businesses to subsidize and support small businesses. There is a fairer tax place that we can get as a city, and I agree with my colleagues. Where we are, whether it's the tax or the regulatory, as the Chamber of Commerce often highlights, is absolutely the conversation we should have. What I would say to everyone, I am the first person that wants to be bold, but I also want to be responsible. Making projections with 2019 numbers without seeing the returns of 2020 puts us at a disadvantage about who do we help and who needs, all choices being equal, which they never are, who can we be more focused on supporting. So I support their general quest for how do we, and we should be looking at continuing to reduce the net income tax. But as we have proven with data, actions, and then results, is that when we make decisions and we pull levers, we need to make sure that we know what are the consequences of that. So what is different, what is being proposed here versus what President Biden is doing? What President Biden is talking about is tax fairness. And he's saying, how do we ensure that the businesses that can pay, and how do we ensure that we support the businesses that we want to grow so we have a more equitable recovery? In order to do that, and part of the challenge with this particular conversation is, it's about trickle-down economics. You cut someone and they're going to invest. I subscribe to my council colleagues, and I look forward to working with all of them as we revisit the work that I did a decade ago, the work that this council did a decade ago about proving that we can really be focused on minority business. Is there are a lot of businesses in this market, not the two major companies of Comcast and American Airlines. There are businesses in this market that don't pay taxes to this market. We have a tax system that is only similar to Washington, D.C., which is the political capital of the world, New York, which is the financial capital of the world, and Detroit. We do not want to be in that box. And so I agree that there needs to be a total restructuring, both from a tax system and a regulatory. But I will say to my colleagues, we should be responsible and look at the 2020 returns. I also say, let's look at other really best practice models like the city of Atlanta that has really put forth an aggressive Black and brown business support system. They put a round table together of people who have said, how do we leverage opportunity zones? How do we invest and support small business in a very focused and intentional way? There are people doing this all around the country. And whatever happens in this particular budget cycle, we should not miss the opportunity to say, we're not going to keep doing the same thing, but we're going to do what is proven. And if we want to be bolder, let's be bolder based on what is going on around the country. And what is going on around the country is a president that recognizes that there are certain businesses that don't pay their fair share, who should pay more and should pay more to the city of Philadelphia so that we can help those businesses that we want to help. So I want to thank my colleagues for being part of this conversation. I think as we move forward, I think there's a real big interest on this council to get it better. I would say that 10 years ago, when we moved in a different direction, the conversation was very limited. Councilmember Green and I were on our own little island. But we have now proven that the work that we did then pays dividends. And so I don't want the business, and particularly the small business community, to leave or to think that this council doesn't care about them. But given a choice, whether we do an incremental tax change or do we invest in businesses, I want to spend my time in the next couple months investing in those businesses that we want to help. And so I thank my colleagues. I welcome the opportunity for the Greater Chamber of Commerce and all the other folks who are working in this space. This is not an either or. It should never be. We should be at a place that we are doing an and. But I think this budget is about an equitable recovery. It's about investing in people. It's investing in our Philadelphians. And then we can have this broader discussion, and we should have it before next year's budget, right? But we should also be responsible. I'm responsible and bold in making sure that we're capturing income that we're not generating or that we're not capturing at the same time as providing the relief and the incentives for social impact businesses that we want in the city of Philadelphia. I would say to you, we can do all of those things. And I look forward to that, continuing that conversation that we started a decade ago, because I think we've made a lot of great progress. What I appreciate the most about this particular city council is that when others didn't believe we could do, we did. And the data proves that we can do better. And that's what I hope that we will do in the upcoming years. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council President. I just wanted to thank my colleagues, Councilmember Dom and Councilmember Green, for their steadfast and hard work on this issue relative to our tax structure. You know, I too agree that we are long overdue for a very robust conversation about our long-term future vision of our city related to our tax structure. And this is not something that we can do just in a term over the next couple of years until 2023. But I think we need to think about, the next 10 years, the next 20 years. What do we want to see for the city of Philadelphia? So I just wanted to put on the record that I'm committed to having that conversation, that I think it's an important conversation we must have, particularly as it relates to workforce development and ensuring that we have family supporting and sustaining job opportunities, not only for our young people, but for individuals who need to reskill and upskill to get into opportunities that may be here in the city of Philadelphia. But I just wanted to thank my colleagues for all of their hard work. And I'm committed to continuing to work with them on looking at our business tax structure as we move forward. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gill.
Thank you very much, Council President. And I'd also like to join my colleagues in acknowledging certainly everybody's hard work to put into this budget. I'm particularly grateful to everybody in city government and all of our agencies, to our tireless and essential city workers, and especially to our mayor's administration, and especially to this council body, who've been working hard to keep us going through this pandemic and navigate, even with the American Rescue dollars, an incredibly challenging budget. Our city's estimated revenue shortfall through FY2026 is $1.5 billion. That is even more than the amount of federal relief funds that we are receiving. And that does not include our obligations to the School District of Philadelphia. This year, there was almost $750 million in lost revenue, a gap that we had to close through incredibly painful cuts. Even now, there are shortfalls in every single year of the city's 5-year plan, and those are only plugged through the federal relief funds. Less than half of the city jobs that were lost in the pandemic have been restored as of now. And it's projected that we could permanently lose 15% of non-resident wage taxpayers, a number that could be lower, it could be higher, as Councilmember Quinones Sanchez shown. We don't know at this point in time. And again, it is difficult, if not impossible, to predict all the longer-term ways in which our tax base could be evolving as a result of this pandemic. So for me, this is not a time to make dramatic tax cuts. It's not a time for permanent tax cuts. We need to look comprehensively at our tax structure and consider changes that are deliberately based on where we are now as a city, where we are going. We have to update our city's tax structure, and we have to make it simpler and fairer. There's no question about that. But that should take the time and care that deserves. And as has been said before, that requires data. That requires research. That requires a lot of people around the table. And at this exact moment, when we are facing such massive budget holes, what we need most is to get immediate help to those who are struggling the most. And I think Councilmember Bass said this earlier this morning. That is what the American Rescue Plan promised, and that is actually our charge. Equity does not mean giving everyone the same modest amount. Equity means giving the most to those who have been hurt the most by this pandemic. There are some businesses that have actually done really well this year. They've even made significant profits. They've expanded and hired. Others have been completely wiped out, devastated. Others, most have just been able to hold their heads above, barely above water, if that. Our city residents have also suffered dramatically differently across the city. Some have been able to work from home and gained income. Others have just seen enormous losses in income and in health and the trauma of violence that disproportionately harms only some of our neighborhoods. So we have a responsibility to use the American Rescue dollars as a rescue to give the most help to brown immigrant, locally owned small businesses. It means helping new businesses that started during the pandemic take root and grow, allowing for entrepreneurship and the creative potential of communities that had to create new venues when government collapsed all around them, allowed them to have the opportunity to thrive. It means investing in raising workers' salaries as part of a quality jobs program. It means investing in our arts communities and paying people to make art that raises our spirits and that brings beauty and community to our city. And it means restoring some of our most important city departments to where they were before the pandemic, and then even then some. It's hard to imagine that our libraries aren't open 7 days a week, year-round. Our parks and rec centers need to be open and staffed for programming and providing a sanctuary against gun violence. We have to make a promise to our young people that this city is looking out for them first. Investing in public services is job creation. It is job creation, and it has the ripple effect of making the city safe, clean, and vibrant so that the private sector jobs can also flourish. I think we can be all committed to this effort, and I just want to thank you for that time. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. She recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. So I agree with a lot that's said, which is why I'm going to say I don't understand. In 2014, I introduced a bill to cut the wage tax $100 million over 11 years. So I do stand ready to cut the wage tax. Like Councilman Green, I served in the banking forum as well. I was one of the board members of First Commercial Bank of Philadelphia, and we provided loans to startup businesses. So what I find difficult to understand is that originally the bill introduced by Councilmember Dom was a tax cut, but now it states that the wage, business income and receipts tax would be reduced to 5.875% in the year 2021 and thereafter. The memo circulated, and from what the council member said, is it is 1 year, but the bill says thereafter, which to me says it is a reduction from the rate where it is now to 5.875%. And when I compare that to the mayor's bill has steady, predictable reductions which surpass the reductions in Council Member Dom's bill. Starting in 2023, the rate is 5.75%. In 2024, it's 5.5%, and in 2023 thereafter, it's 5.25%, which is a steadier and greater reduction for businesses in that regard. So I think there are two things that I agree with. One is Philadelphia has to have a competitive tax rate, but the other issue is that businesses want stability and predictability. I would like an explanation as to why this bill provides a higher tax rate compared to the mayor's bill, which provides a lower tax rate. Because I'm inclined to vote for the mayor's tax bill, which provides a greater reduction for the business income receipts tax. Thank you.
Council President, can I do a follow-up?
Yeah, Chair recognizes Councilman Green. We'll follow up.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to address Councilmember O's point and then also make a follow-up comment. And Councilmember O, thank you for your comments. But as you do realize that in the mayor's proposal, the first year would go to 6.1 and 6.2, and then a much larger cut on the back end of the proposal that the administration provided of $157 million. The amendment that was circulated does a more significant cut up front, because that is the issue from my understanding. And as I stated earlier, the members of the business community, especially businesses of color, would like to see a more drastic perspective in reference to reducing their taxes as opposed to grants. And also, as you know, we can't predict what's going to happen in 4 or 5 years from now, especially at that time when there would be a different administration. And so having a more predictable perspective, as you stated, is important for businesses based on your experience of working in banking, provides that type of impact for businesses of color by giving them a more significant reduction in the beginning of this reduction and keeping at that level and then going out through the 5 years and giving them a higher level of predictability than they would have in the out years of the 5-year plan. And that goes along with what, from my conversations, and I'm sure others have had conversations with Black, Brown, Hispanic, and Asian business owners who stated they want diverse organizations. In reference to some of the other comments, and I want to thank Councilmember Sanchez for her long work in addressing this issue. She's been very focused on this issue, specifically based on not only her district, which has a diversity, but also on her concern for tax policy. Her comments, but the perspective of why I support this legislation, and it takes me back to conversation I've had with my mentor, council member. And I remember, in first coming into her office, she talked about why she supported the work of then Mayor Ed Rendell and why he wanted to focus on Center City. And she said to me in those conversations why she wanted to support Center City, because she talked about what she saw on Wadsworth Avenue, where friends of hers who had businesses on Wadsworth Avenue and other neighborhood commercial corridors initially kept those businesses there, but then they moved out of the city of Philadelphia and then later moved their businesses out of the city of Philadelphia. And from her experiences of being a member of the National League of Cities, being president of Women in Municipal Government, as also being president of National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials, she saw what happened in cities around the country and saw why it was important to invest in the Center City core to help provide jobs and opportunities for people that work in neighborhoods all around the city of Philadelphia. So when people talk about trickle-down economics, and I agree there is trickle-down economics at the federal level, but at the local level, when you see your friends and neighbors move out of commercial corridors that have been vibrant over the years because of a number of issues, and I would say tax policy is one of those concerns. When people talk about issues like in cities like Atlanta, and I'm sure members of this body will remember that when I came into this body, I talked about how this city needs to have a Maynard moment. And when I say Maynard, I'm talking about Maynard Jackson and how he was able to help grow the Black business culture in the city of Atlanta. And we look at the city of Philadelphia and looking at our census numbers, only 6% of the businesses with employees are owned by African Americans. Only 4% of the businesses with employees are owned by our brown have in our city, because we have a number of entrepreneurs who are solo practitioners, but they're not able to grow their businesses. And when they do start to grow those businesses and start to employ more people, especially in our commercial corridors, Philadelphia, unfortunately, many of them move outside of the city in communities and not in the city of Philadelphia. That's why when I look at this issue, why it's important because we have a 25% poverty rate. I know it's important to grow affordable housing in the city to those who are homeless and those who come from the disability community. So I understand the concerns and the issues of how we need to allocate these dollars. That's why I've tried to take a balanced approach in reference to these issues to say how can we invest in our communities for quality life issues in reference to education and anti-violence and all of the issues and concerns that make the city of Philadelphia the city that it is and a better city going forward. But at the same point, we have a 25% poverty rate, and poverty is the issue that is intertwined to all of the concerns we have as a city in reference to anti-violence, homelessness, education. It all threads to poverty. And one of the best ways to address poverty is by giving someone a job. The best creators of jobs are small businesses. And when we have a situation in our city where only 6% of the businesses with employees are owned by African Americans, and only 4% of businesses with employees are owned by people of Latin descent, even that's a real issue. So I do believe this is not an either or proposition. We're putting money into our budget to address a lot of these issues, but I think we also can put dollars into our budget to help grow our city so that way we can help those businesses that can employ so many of our neighbors, our constituents, and our residents. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. So at this point, I'm not the council president, so I think I'm allowed to speak. And I don't like speaking even as a chair. But I as much as I agree with pretty much a lot of what members are saying, there's a certain reality today in the city of Philadelphia. The conversation about the fact that we did have a projected $450 million deficit this fiscal. Some people don't believe Rob DeVos numbers. It is what it is. I mean, he gets to set the revenue projection, but there is a deficit in the city of Philadelphia. It's a reality. American recovery dollars for purposes of fixing that first. And should there be additional dollars to do certain things? Absolutely. It's about how you front side, back side. And I voted for pretty much every tax cut that ever came down the pipe. A lot longer, a whole lot more than most people here, with the exception of maybe Brian O'Neill, simply because I've been here long. So I'm not adverse to tax cuts. But the concern right now, and the reality is as we try to work our way out of this, is what do we invest in? Do we invest in tax cuts that are going to be across the board? So the same companies and the same percentage of people as it relates to the lack of African American owned businesses in the city of Philadelphia, frankly, based on this particular proposal, and I don't want to pick on your proposal, Councilman Dom, this is the uniformity clause in the state statute prohibits us from doing what we really need to do. But the reality is that decrease in tax burden will be for all people across. And I don't see how that impacts black businesses, right, any more than it will impact anybody else. And when I talk to black businesses, the issue is the lack of access to capital more so than the tax policy. That's just my conversations with them. And how do we get to a point where we can level the playing field on that? This whole issue, and we talk about what has happened over the last year and a half, was based on inequality, based on disparity. And that disparity continues to exist. I would like to see us figure out a way that we address, and I hate to use the term the least of these, but that's a simple reality, in a very meaningful way. I represent a district that has a lot of challenges, and I represent a district that, frankly, doing okay in the southern part of that district. So I get to see the disparities firsthand. And through no fault of the folks on the southern part of my district, you know, that's not their fault that they're doing much better off. And similarly, in most cases, through no fault of the individuals on the northern end. But until we can come up with a strategy, how we close that gap, how we close that disparity to enact something that does not do that, and this will not do that. In all due respect to both of you all, you know, and I respect, and I know you all are obviously genuine and passionate about what you say, but I'm just, you know, I'm concerned that, you know, not being in a position to invest. The mayor's office is not moving forward with their bird tax. I don't know why. They put forth, but they're not asking to bring that up. Probably has to do with they've seen the tide and the conversation around the city council about investing. So I'm just concerned. I'm not trying to influence anybody's vote, but I felt the need to have to talk about my vote, which I will take, because I do represent that big building, actually two of them, right? The tallest building in the city of Philadelphia. I represent the second tallest building in the city of Philadelphia. I represent the third tallest building, and on and on and on. So I understand that, but I also represent, 32nd and Cumberland, and 8th and 9th and Diamond, Councilwoman Sanchez on the other side. And those disparities cause me to have to be in a position to figure out a way to invest. And what we're talking about investing today in people is just not nearly enough. So I just had to say that. I'm not trying to influence anybody's vote, but I'm just passionate about people, and you all know me. I'm fight for, people who have challenges. That's just my nature. And my mentor taught me that, and I continue to feel that way. But I really appreciate you all trying to move the needle. I agree. I say it all the time. The best social service program is a good job. I agree with you 1,000%. But that good job is only achievable in today's world if you have the appropriate opportunity, number one, the appropriate skill set. That's just the way it is, right, in today's world, and the opportunity to be given, open that door for that person. I think the way we do that is investing in our people in just a very aggressive way, beyond this. So if we continue to have a broader conversation, clearly I'd love to be in the midst of that, trying to figure out a way to get around the uniformity clause in the state statute that limits our ability to do it in a targeted way. So just felt the need, and because I'm not the council president in this one, maybe in the next Teams meeting in about half an hour, I will be, and I won't talk about this obviously, but as the chair of the particular committee, I just have to say something. Thank you for your indulgence in this. Councilman Diamond Green. Councilman Dom, you just want to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I just also want to acknowledge Councilmember Sanchez and all the work you've done, and I've heard you loud and clear, and I appreciate everything you've done, and I'm happy to work with you over the summer on other things like this. And I just think that when you look at this, if we had done this 20 years ago, we wouldn't be in this position today. We wouldn't have had, when you look at that Pew report in the pandemic, we're second to Detroit. And there's never a good time, ever, to do this. And Councilman O, I will mention this. If it was up to me, I'd be reducing the net income from 6.2 to 0 over 10 years, but I don't have the votes for it. And Councilmember Green advised me to scale back, which I did in order to try to get the votes, and that's why we did just this reduction from 6.2 to 5.875 that would continue permanently, but it would go down for the first year. So similar to the wage tax proposal that we have in front of us. And I will say that, you talk about progressiveness, progressives getting jobs, and eConsult did the report. Okay, they did the study. This is a third party. We had 3 bills originally. We had lowering wage taxes, lowering net income, and paying the higher of the two, net income or gross receipts. eConsult did the study and said, forget the third bill, basically. It doesn't produce the results. Put all the focus into net income. In fact, they showed in their charts that reducing net income produced new jobs 3-to-1 versus reducing wage taxes. And all I'm trying to do here is get the city on a better path in the next 10, 20 years. I probably won't be here in 20 years, but the city hopefully will benefit. And if someone had done this 20 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. Anyway, I want to thank you all, and I respect all of your opinions, Council President. I respect your opinion on this, and I hope we can move forward, but I totally understand where everybody is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Yeah, this will be my final comment. I want to thank you, Council President, for your commentary and actually coming off the rostern and giving your perspective. Because for some people who don't see you on outside of your Council President role, and I will call you the mayor of the mansion, because you're a diehard Strawberry Mansion, and you've been committed to that community even long before becoming a member of this body. I want to thank you for your perspective. And when you were talking, it just made me and brought me back to, I started my career, and I've talked this a lot about, in North Philadelphia at Broad and Glenwood. And even to this day, many years past, in fact, I had a call today by a former coworker who was a teller at Meridian at Broad and Glenwood. There are a number of people that still only call me the Meridian Man because I worked at Broad and Glenwood. And I think about all the business owners that came into that branch that I was able to help and work with and still have relationships with to this day. Those like my late father-in-law who had a auto body shop, the first gas station at 20th in Indiana, after he worked for Cadillac for a period of time. And so for me, the spirit of this type of legislation goes to try to help those type of businesses in the city of Philadelphia, to help grow them so they can have more employees and help more residents in our city. And then I'll close with the perspective that, when we look at how our budget's put together and in reference to the administration, and the administration does a good job of trying to maintain and enhance our fund balance. But they also provide dollars in the fund balance that could, I think, be used for this perspective. During the years of the Trump administration, the administration had a reserve of $50 million for each year. As we go into this new 5-year plan, that's now $75 million. And so that's why I believe that we can provide this type of reduction for those type of businesses that I talked about to help them grow in the city of Philadelphia, but at the same time, provide the resources for education, anti-violence, the Housing Trust Fund, and all the other things that we know will help improve the quality of life in our city, but always Black, brown, and Asian businesses in our city that are looking to grow, to come out of this pandemic, because we saw what happened to many of them. We saw 68% reduction of African-American businesses from March to June because of the pandemic, compared to 44% reduction by Caucasian businesses in our city. So we can do both, and I believe this proposal is to do both in this budget. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. to our technology guys, we really have to figure out why the screens keep freezing. So whatever you can do from wherever you are, please. We're missing a lot of conversation from them. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to clarify that I did not misunderstand what you said. Bill 210323, that bill we are voting on today, is that correct? Or is the administration not moving forward on that bill?
The administration is not moving forward on their Burt bill.
On 323.
The bill on the wage tax, which is 322, is the administration's bill. It was amended. I offer the amendment to have a Philadelphia only Philly residents reduction in wage tax. So that's why I supported that with the amendment. So any reduction in wage tax would go to Philadelphia's only.
Okay, so the only Burt reduction bill is in fact
they have not asked for their Burt reduction bill to move.
Okay, so there's only one Burt reduction bill. That is Councilmember Dom's bill. Okay, right. Thank you very much.
Any additional comments? All right. So with that, Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. For an amendment to Bill number 210284. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee, and I move that the amendment to Bill number 210284 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 210284 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Roll call.
Nay.
Roll call. All right. Okay, Mr. Decker. I'm sorry. Mr. McDermott. You keep going back and forth. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bass?
No.
Councilmember Brooks?
Nay.
Councilmember Dom?
Aye.
Councilmember Gautier?
Nay.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson?
Nay.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Councilmember Gim?
Nay.
Councilmember Heenan?
Nay.
Councilmember Johnson?
Nay.
Councilmember Jones?
Nay.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Aye.
Councilmember O?
Aye.
Councilmember Parker?
Nay.
Councilmember Quinones Sanchez?
Nay.
Councilmember Squilla?
Nay.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
And Council President Clark?
Nay. Nays are 12. Ayes are 5. The motion on the amendment fails. Councilman Downs? You going to try to run it without the amendment?
Hey, it's always another day.
Thank you, Councilman. Oh, there will absolutely be another day. Believe me. Absolutely be another day. That day will be soon. Okay. The next bill, Chair recognizes Councilmember Parker for motion on the amendment to Bill number 210322.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll offer an amendment to Bill number 210322. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to Bill number 210322 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 210322 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Motion carries. An amendment to Bill number 210322 has been approved. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion on bill number 210322 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 210322 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that bill number 210322 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as amendment first reading this day of bill to the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Motion is approved. Chair recognizes Councilmember Parker for a motion on bill number 324 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 210324 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that bill number 210324 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay. 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 Roll call.
Do we want to take, when somebody called for a roll call, I thought it was able. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. Note for this time, for the record, that bills number 210, 283, 210, 284, 210, 285, 210, 323, and resolution number 210, 336 being held. This concludes the business before the committee of the whole today. Thank you all very much for your attendance. Folks, please.
We got to go back to our meeting.
Please immediately go into back to your stated meeting, and so we can conclude for the night.